Let's be honest, we all love our city parks. They're these little green islands in a huge sea of concrete. But keeping them looking great, well, that costs money. So today, we're diving into a really big idea. What if we could use something called green taxes to fund, maintain, and maybe even grow these amazing urban spaces?
You've seen it, right? Our cities just keep expanding, getting taller, getting wider, and our green spaces often feel like they're the first thing to get squeezed out. So what's the fix? How do we actually pay for the parks and trees that make our cities places we want to live? We're going to dig into one really interesting potential answer.
All right, so first up, let's set the stage. We need to talk about our cities and the constant pressure that all this growth puts on our environment. It's like we're pushing our cities way past their limits. And this isn't just about, more traffic or crowded subways. It means we're dealing with more pollution, more strain on everything. And critically, we're losing the very green spaces that help keep our cities healthy and livable. And when we lose these spaces, it really, really matters. We lose the simple stuff, like having a quiet place to just unwind after a long day. But we also lose some really concrete benefits, like higher property values in neighborhoods with parks. And the trees? They're not just pretty decorations. They're literally on the front lines, filtering the air we breathe. Losing them throws the whole urban ecosystem completely out of whack. So, if pollution and development are part of the problem, could they also be part of the solution? Well, this question brings us to a really core concept in environmental economics, the polluter pays principle. And look, this idea isn't some brand new thing that just popped up. The conversation's been building for decades. It really kicked off with big global conferences way back in the 70s, which led to some game-changing policies, like Sweden's tax on nitrogen oxide emissions. From there, it grew into global agreements. The key takeaway there is that we've been slowly but surely building a way to put a real price on environmental damage. And that whole framework is what we call green taxation. The concept is actually pretty straightforward, but it's incredibly powerful. Instead of just taxing your income or what you buy, you tax things that actually hurt the environment. The goal is twofold. One, you discourage people from doing the harmful stuff, and two, you raise money that can be used to help fix the damage. This quote just nails the philosophy behind the whole thing. It's not about punishing anyone. It's about accountability. The idea is that the cost of pollution, whether that's healthcare costs or environmental cleanup, should be paid for by whoever is causing it, not by the rest of us. So that all sounds great in theory, right? But does this stuff actually work out in the real world? Well, let's take a look at some fascinating success stories. And wow, the evidence is pretty compelling. I mean, just look at this. Costa Rica literally paid landowners to protect their forests, and they saved 500,000 hectares. The UK's tax on landfills, it massively cut down on waste. And you've probably heard about Ireland's plastic bag levy, a tiny, direct cost that practically wiped out that kind of litter. These aren't small changes. These are major shifts in behavior, all driven by smart tax policies. Let's just pause on this one number for a second, because this is huge. A 40% reduction in harmful nitrogen oxide emissions in just 4 years. That's an absolutely incredible result. And it shows just how powerful these targeted taxes can be at changing how industries operate for the better. So if these policies are so effective, you've got to be asking, why isn't every city and country on board? Well, as you can probably guess, it's not quite that simple. There's some pretty significant hurdles to get over. One of the biggest roadblocks? Money, especially for developing nations. The global community promised to step up and increase climate funding, but according to a recent report, it actually went down by 15%. It's tough to fund green projects when the money that was promised isn't just failing to show up, it's actually disappearing. And then there's the huge factor of governance. In places like the US or the UK, you can have public votes that build support and make these policies much more likely to stick. But in a more centralized system, like in India, decisions can be made from the top down, which can create a real disconnect with the public. There's just no one-size-fits-all approach. And the list of challenges just keeps going, There's no global standard, which raises all sorts of questions about fairness. You have to worry about the economic impact on lower-income families. We often don't have this super detailed, real-time data we need to design the perfect tax. And sometimes, a new green tax ends up fighting against an old government policy. It's a really complex web to untangle. So, given all those challenges, how do we actually move forward? Well, it really all comes down to finding the right balance and mapping out a clear path to get there. The research points to a pretty clear framework for making this work. And it all starts with the public. People have to understand why this matters, so they'll actually support the policies, and their participation is absolutely crucial. From there, it's all about using good data to design smart, balanced policies, and then rolling them out through a transparent system that people can actually see and trust. So here's the bottom line. Green taxation isn't some magic wand that's going to fix everything overnight. It's a powerful tool, for sure, but it's a nuanced one. For it to work, you absolutely need community buy-in, you need good governance, and you have to get that delicate balance of priorities just right. And that brings us right back to the fundamental question. These kinds of policies force us to put a price tag on pollution, but they also make us think about the value of what we're trying to protect. So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. What is a greener, healthier city really worth to you?